Scop, which usually appears in a suffix, comes from the Greek skopion, meaning to look at. In English, we have the simple noun scope, along with some other words it sometimes stands for: telescope, microscope, periscope, and so on. And have you ever used a stereoscope, a device your great-grandparents probably enjoyed, which lets you look through a viewer at two slightly different photographs of the same thing, one with each eye, to enjoy the illusion that you're seeing it in 3 dimensions? Endoscope, a lighted tubular medical instrument for viewing the interior or a hollow organ or body part that typically has one or more channels to permit passage of surgical instruments. Possible uses of the endoscope outside of medicine soon became apparent, and soon mechanics were using specially designed endoscopes to view the insides of jet engines. The Greek prefix endo means within, inside, so around 1860 an early crude instrument for looking deep inside the body was named the endoscope. But modern endoscopy required the invention of the electric light bulb and then fiber optic cable, so the first modern endoscopes date only to 1967. An endoscope may be inserted through a natural passageway, for example, through the nose or down the esophagus, or through a tiny cut in the skin. A tiny camera with a light at the end of the cable sends back images onto a screen, and the surgeon uses special instruments that work through a tube alongside the cable. There are now specialized types of endoscopes for every part of the body, where they can take tissue samples, cut out small growths, or remove foreign objects. Arthroscopic, relating to a fiber optic instrument that is inserted through an incision near a joint to examine the joint's interior. The day he scheduled the 4th arthroscopic operation on his knee was the day he decided to hang up his football cleats. In Greek, arthron means joint. Arthritis is a condition of swollen and painful joints, and arthropods are animals, including insects, arachnids, and crustaceans, that have a segmented body and jointed limbs. Arthroscopic surgery, or arthroscopy, has revolutionized the treatment of joint injuries. It's performed with an arthroscope, a specialized type of endoscope, see above. A tiny camera and a light are inserted through a small cut in the skin, and through another cut nearby a tiny surgical instrument, controlled through its own cable, is inserted. The surgeon then performs the operation, guided by the images sent back via the fiber optic cable. Most patients walk out of the hospital on crutches the same day, though full recovery may take a couple of months. Laparoscopy, examination of the interior of the abdomen using a fiber optic instrument inserted through a cut in the abdomen's wall. The initial laparoscopy involves inserting the cable through a tiny cut and inflating the internal area with carbon dioxide so that a good-sized area will become visible. Since laparo means wall of the abdomen, a laparoscope is an endoscope designed especially to examine the abdomen. Common laparoscopic surgeries include removal of the gallbladder, appendix, or kidney, and removal of tumors from abdominal organs. Like the other endoscopic surgeries, laparoscopy, as compared to traditional surgery, reduces risk of bleeding, pain following the operation, patient recovery time, and length of hospital stays. Oscilloscope, an instrument that shows visual images of changing electrical current on a screen. An oscilloscope next to the bed was monitoring her vital signs, but otherwise it was hard for a visitor to be sure she was even alive. In Latin, oscillare means to swing, and our word oscillation usually means vibration or variation, especially in a changing flow of electricity. The oscilloscope basically draws a graph of an electrical signal. Since all kinds of physical phenomena can be converted into an electric voltage, oscilloscopes can be used to measure such things as sound, light, and heat. So an oscilloscope can analyze how one clarinet's sound is different from another's, or how one bulb's light differs from another's. Auto mechanics use oscilloscopes to measure engine vibrations. Doctors use them to measure brain waves. Audio technicians use oscilloscopes to diagnose problems in audio equipment. TV and radio technicians use them to diagnose TV and radio problems. But oscilloscopes are most essential today to high-tech electronics experimentation. Trans comes from Latin to indicate movement through, across, or beyond something. Translation carries a writer's meaning from one language to another. A television signal is sent or transmitted through the air, or a cable, to your set. When making your way through a city on public transportation, you may have to transfer from one bus or subway to another. Transient, 1. Not lasting long, short-lived. 2. Passing through a place and staying only briefly. It's a college town, so much of its population is transient. A transient mood is one that passes quickly. A brief stopover in a town on your way to somewhere else is a transient visit. A summer job on a farm is transient work, lasting only as long as the growing season. You may occasionally experience a transient episode of dizziness or weakness, which vanishes without a trace. As a noun, transient means a person who passes through a place, staying only briefly. The hobos and tramps of earlier years were some of our most colorful transients, known for hopping freight trains, panhandling on the street, and stealing homemade pies cooling on the windowsill. Transfiguration, a change in form or appearance, a glorifying spiritual change. Being in love caused a complete transfiguration of her personality. The Gospels relate that one day Jesus took 3 disciples up a mountain, where they witnessed his transfiguration into divine form. His face shone like the sun, his garments became brilliantly white, and a voice from heaven proclaimed that this was the Son of God. Transfiguration was first used in English as the name of this biblical event, and the Feast of the Transfiguration remains the name of a holy day. So the word has always kept a somewhat religious, and almost always positive, tone. A face may be transfigured by joy, and an ugly duckling may be slowly transfigured into a radiant beauty. And as Harry Potter fans know, transfiguration is a subject long taught at the Hogwarts School by Minerva McGonagall. Transponder, a radio or radar set that emits a radio signal after receiving such a signal. When a patient is admitted to an emergency room, an implanted transponder can relay important data about his or her medical history. This word was coined during World War II by simply joining pieces of the words transmitter and responder. Transponders are basic to modern aviation and communication satellites, and they're finding new uses in fields such as medicine as well. But they're now also part of everyday life. The Easy Pass that lets you drive right through turnpike toll booths is a transponder, and the car you're driving may not even start unless it recognizes the signal from your personal keys transponder. In a big crowded foot race, you may carry a tiny transponder on your shoe that records when you cross both the starting line and the finish line. Transcendent, 1. Exceeding or rising above usual limits, supreme. 2. Beyond comprehension, beyond ordinary experience or material existence. Despite the chaos around her, she remained calm, with a transcendent smile on her face. The Latin verb scandere means to climb, so transcend has the basic meaning of climbing so high that you cross some boundary. A transcendent experience is one that takes you out of yourself and convinces you of a larger life or existence. In this sense, it means something close to spiritual. The American writers and thinkers known as the Transcendentalists, including Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, believed in the unity of all creation, the basic goodness of humankind, and the superiority of spiritual vision over mere logic. When we speak of the transcendent importance of an issue such as climate change, we may mean that everything else on Earth actually depends on it.